So this one is set up in that sort of standard form, get it equal to 0. So we could even try and factor it. Actually, I don't want to. We're practicing complete the square, but you can always try, right? So make sure you practice complete the square. In general, the idea would be that you look at an equation and try and choose the best method. So if it's factorable, I wouldn't actually use complete the square if I was not intentionally practicing it. So first thing is to isolate our r squared and r terms. To do that with an equation, you're going to move that constant, that minus 14, to the other side. So I'm adding 14 to both sides. Your next step is to divide, is to make sure the leading coefficient is 1. Let me say it the way I said it earlier. And with an equation, instead of just factoring that 7 out, you can actually divide it out completely. Just make sure you divide everything. You don't get to pick and choose. So 7r squared over 7 is just r squared. Negative 14r over 7 is negative 2r. And 14 over 7 is 2. So next I get to complete the square. So I'm going to take this number, I'm going to cut it in half, I'm going to square it, which is negative 1 squared, which is 1. So I'm adding, I'll go ahead and just sneak it in here, 1. And since I have this equal sign, I don't have to add and subtract 1, I just add it to both sides to keep my balance. So on the right-hand side, I now have 3. On the left-hand side, I should be able to factor into a perfect square. And in this case, the perfect square is r minus 1 times r minus 1. So again, I know that complete the square seems challenging, but it's just a couple of steps. So if you can get it memorized and get comfortable with it, you can quickly, in a lot of cases, rewrite your equation in a way that makes it a lot easier to solve. We'll use this again for some graphing things. It gives you really valuable information when you're trying to graph things. Okay, so r minus 1 squared equals 3. I think I've just got a two-step going on here again. I'm subtracting 1, and then I'm squaring. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the square by square rooting, plus or minus root 3. And the second thing I'm going to do is add 1 to both sides. So it's totally fine to say plus or minus root 3 plus 1. That's valid. You'll see me a lot of times favor this way. And it's just like I said in the last one, the only reason I'm favoring that is because when we use quadratic formulas, we're going to get answers that look like this. So it's kind of nice to see that your answers really look the same either way. Really similar stuff that we get out of those two methods. Okay, and as always, like checking is good, but these are quadratic, so you're not going to get extraneous solutions. So I would say unless you have a calculator, it's harder to check these than just to rework the problem real quick to see if you can catch any mistakes that you made.